Hello, my friends. Jake Andrews here, and welcome. Are you ready to become the greatest blues and rock guitarist that you can possibly be? To greatly improve your blues guitar improvising, rhythm playing, timing, and music understanding. To learn from one of the greatest originators of modern blues rock guitar playing. I am so very excited to tell you about my brand new teaching package, the Ultimate Freddie King Instrumentals Guitar Course. This course is based on what I feel is the most influential blues rock guitar album ever recorded, which is Let's Hide Away and Dance Away with Freddie King. This album had an enormous impact on generations of guitarists and musicians. The songs on this record became almost mandatory staples for blues, R&B, and rock and roll bands to play, starting immediately after it was released in 1961. Countless artists such as Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, Peter Green, Jerry Garcia, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page, John Fogerty, and Jeff Beck were hugely influenced by the songs on this record. And what blues or rock guitarist hasn't been impacted by at least one of these legendary musicians? This album, Let's Hide Away and Dance Away with Freddie King, had an enormous influence on my own guitar playing, starting at the age of 7 years old, when my father first introduced me to it. And I have told my students this for years. Everything you need to know about Texas blues guitar playing is contained within this album. Now, that might be a slight exaggeration, but I do strongly feel that learning all of the songs on this album, note for note, perfecting the timing and the phrasing, learning the chord progressions, and then applying all of it into your own playing will completely transform your guitar skills in a massive way. Now stick with this video all the way through because I am going to give you a complimentary video guitar lesson on one of the great solos from this Freddie King album. So you can see as an example just how detailed this course really is and how unique Freddie's lead playing really was well over 60 years ago. But first, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Jake Andrews, and I have been playing guitar seriously since I was 6 years old. I started out my professional career the night I sat in with Albert King at the age of 8 and played Hideaway on stage with him at Antone's here in Austin, Texas. My father, John Toad Andrews, was the guitarist with Tracy Nelson and Mother Earth in the 60s and 70s, as well as numerous R&B bands throughout the early and mid-60s. He would take me out countless nights as a kid to sit in with and learn directly from the many legends that would often perform here in Austin. Artists like Buddy Guy, Albert Collins, Jimmy Vaughan, B.B. King, Albert King, Otis Rush, Johnny Winter, and all of the amazing Austin musicians I grew up listening to, such as Doug Sahm, Charlie Sexton, Doyle Bramhall Jr., Ian Moore, Eric Johnson, and so many, many more. By the time I was in my teens, I had toured in Europe. I was working on recording my first album, and I was regularly touring the US, often playing in Memphis and LA at B.B. King's clubs. I signed with a Warner Brothers subsidiary label when I was 17, and my debut album at age 19 scored a top 10 rock radio hit with the song Time to Burn. Billboard magazine stated, Time to Burn's mix of guitar pyrotechnics, fiery vocals, and powerful new songs confirms that Jake Andrews is already blazing new paths with the torch he has been passed. Now, I've released many more solo albums, my latest one being Train Back Home, which debuted at number 11 on the Billboard Blues charts this last year. I've toured Europe and the US for many years and continue to record in Austin and LA. I've also lent my guitar playing to many other artists' records. Now, in addition to being a working and touring music artist, I have also been teaching private guitar lessons with select students for over 15 years. And I really enjoy working with my students, helping them to develop that musical ear, their timing, their music knowledge, developing their own playing style. And I especially enjoy exposing them to great older music that they may not be familiar with. To see my students grow and develop brings me an enormous amount of satisfaction. And I believe that my many years of being a professional music artist, learning to play by ear at such a young age, and my many years of teaching bring a unique perspective to my guitar courses, which really set me apart from the countless other online instructors out there. And now I want to help you to become the greatest blues rock guitarist you can be. So as you can see, I was immersed in music and music concerts from a very early age. I began learning and playing guitar in earnest at age 6 under my dad's guidance. I first started with learning mostly 50s rock and roll songs from artists like Buddy Holly, Chuck Berry, Ritchie Valens, Eddie Cochran, Elvis, stuff like that, stuff that my dad loved growing up. In fact, Buddy Holly was my music hero at that time. However, after a year or two of just playing rock and roll songs, my father introduced me to blues guitar, playing me records by B.B. King, Albert King, and of course, Freddie King. Freddie King especially had been an enormous influence on my dad's playing, especially the Hideaway album instrumentals. Hideaway, San Jose, Just Pickin', these were some of the first blues songs I learned. But my father came up with a great method to get me to practice for long hours and to help me develop my own ear.
He also likes the guitar, and here's one reason why.
My dad pays me to learn songs. I just listen with my ear. If it's a pretty simple song, I've learned it, and I'll play me.
Jake gets $15 a song minimum, and the music you might expect would be rock. The kind any 10-year-old kid would like to play. Not Jake Andrews. He plays nothing but the blues.
1, 2, 3.
He bribed me, and it definitely worked. I soon developed a keen ear for being able to pick out difficult guitar playing on my own. So that was very motivating as a kid. And this album was my absolute favorite. The sheer amount of non-stop lead guitar playing was just awesome to me. It is truly a huge part of how I learned to play at such an early age. Now, by the age of 9 and 10 years old, I was opening shows every weekend with the Antones House Band backing me up, playing before legendary artists such as Albert Collins, Buddy Guy, Otis Rush, the Fabulous Thunderbirds, Gatemouth Brown, Johnny Winter, and countless others. Look up the numerous videos I have on my YouTube channel of me performing back in those days. As I didn't sing at that age, my entire set list that I performed was all instrumental. I literally played every Freddie King instrumental and a handful of other classic blues instrumentals as well. But the Hideaway album songs made up the majority of my set list up until I started singing when I was about 13 years old. So I have a great love and attachment for these songs, this guitar playing, as it truly shaped my early music career. Check out some of these clips of me playing these songs from way back when. Now, back to the massive impact of the Hideaway album. When this was released in 1961, as I mentioned earlier, it was a huge crossover success. Not only for blues and R&B lovers, but also had great success on the pop music charts. Countless young kids were inspired to start playing blues guitar directly because of Freddie King and these recordings. Especially many of the British artists were directly inspired by Freddie in the early 60s. As I mentioned earlier, this music inspired Eric Clapton to start playing guitar. And it was a massive influence on other British artists like Peter Green, Jimmy Page, John Mayall, Jeff Beck, and Keith Richards. On the first John Mayall and the Blues Breakers album from 1966, Clapton recorded a fiery version of Hideaway that became a classic in its own right. Later on, Peter Green recorded a burning version of The Stumble. Look up the live version of Peter Green doing The Stumble with John Mayall and the Blues Breakers in 1967. It's absolutely mind-blowing. A lot of Freddie King's influence can be heard in Jimmy Page's guitar playing as well, and especially in Jeff Beck's early playing. Back here in the States, these songs on this album became mandatory to be able to play for blues, R&B, and rock and roll guitarists. Every blues and rock and roll band in the world covered Hideaway and some of the other more popular instrumentals like The Stumble, San Jose, Sensation, and Sidetrack. And these songs are still being played to this day by blues bands. These recordings also had a huge influence on Hendrix and his guitar playing at the time, and also a massive influence on a young Jimmy Vaughan and Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray was especially influenced by Freddie's guitar playing. Do yourself a favor and look up Stevie Ray's version of the Freddie King song In the Open from the In the Beginning album. That version will absolutely knock your socks off. So there you go, my friends. It's really impossible to estimate how much of an influence this music has had on bands and artists ever since it was first released. I mean, if you think about it, this guitar playing directly influenced the biggest rock guitarists of the era. Clapton, Hendrix, Jimmy Page, Jeff Beck, Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac, and later on Stevie Ray Vaughan. And what rock bands through the years have not been greatly influenced by one or more of those guitarists? So Freddie King's music and guitar playing has filtered down through the years, through countless bands and musicians, and the effect of that is still being felt today. So actually, you right now will be continuing in this legacy by learning these songs and playing them, and then perhaps performing them for others so that they can be introduced to this music that at this point is well over 60 years old. So that is why I'm so excited and glad to finally share this with you. I have been playing these songs myself for well over 30 years. And I have been teaching these songs to my students for many years. And they never fail to help those students develop an extremely strong foundation for playing blues lead guitar. Also, these songs are just downright fun to play, and I am honored to be passing this on to you here in this course. Right now, I would actually like to show you an example of what these instructional videos look like within the course, so you can see just how detailed the entire thing is. There are 12 songs on this album, and the teaching section of the course breaks down each of the 12 songs into a separate video lesson for every verse in those songs. The songs average 8 to 10 verses each, and I've also included a solo guitar playthrough of each song at the full tempo so that you can get a feel of what the timing is like, plus a playthrough with the original track. So as you can see now, this adds up to a whole lot of videos contained within this course. In fact, it includes over 120 different video modules and over 13 hours of content. As an example, I would like to include a video teaching the first solo from a great song on the album called Washout. Just this one solo verse that I am about to show you encompasses so much of Freddie's unique guitar playing style, seamlessly blending major and minor licks, unique phrasing, and playing through the chord changes. I think this lesson video will give you a good understanding of how much you will be able to learn by working with this entire course. Let's take a minute and look at the lesson right now together. All right, everybody, welcome into the inner workings of the Ultimate Freddie King Instrumentals Guitar Course. Now, what I want to show you today is from kind of a deep cut on the album called Washout. Washout is a great shuffle in the key of G, kind of an up-tempo shuffle. It's got a great rhythm part that's played over the 3 chord changes and a lot of double stops in that riff. It's pretty straight ahead, but there are 2 awesome lead verses on this song. And I want to show you how to play the first lead verse from this song. I really feel that just this one verse encompasses a lot of the stuff that he plays on this album. So watch me play through the verse first, and then we'll start learning it. Okay, so that's how we do it full speed. Now that first lick, right? You see that? We're just right off the bat, and we've just come out of the turnaround, the D, the C, and then the G. And we go 1, 2, 3. That would be the count off into the solo. Now what is that? We're down here in G, and we're in our first position, minor pentatonic. Right there, nothing crazy. We come right in on this 3rd string bend, and he takes it all the way to the top, a full step bend. But you see, we don't come down, we want to cut it off at the top of the bend and drop down here to these double notes here, 2nd and 1st string. A very basic blues or rock and roll. Very basic, but you want to cut it off there and drop. Now we're going to swing over here to the front of the box, but we're going to swing over on our ring and middle finger, okay? You may be used to playing the scale like this with your pinky. I'm going to suggest that you do all your bending with your ring finger, ring and middle. So you see your middle finger is just there to give you strength to help you bend. We're just straddling that fret right there. And I have my thumb over, and this is how I recommend bending for more aggressive blues and blues rock guitar. You see how I'm throwing my wrist? It's really kind of twisting my wrist like turning a doorknob. Now we bend that 2nd string and we bend it up a full step. And we hold it there for a second or 2. So slow down. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1. So there's that pause there. Once again, 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1. And now he comes out of it and answers it with this. Yeah, really cool. We start getting into some of this unique Freddie King phrasing right here. So he answers it. So he does that same bend here to the 1st finger on the 2nd and 1st strings. See how I'm barred down there? Now we come over to this same note here on the 2nd string, but we don't bend it, we just walk back that scale. And you could use your pinky if you're used to that, or if you're already used to using your ring finger there, like I do a lot of times, just use that as well. Okay, from there he goes right back to this 3rd string bend, a full step, and he comes just to the 2nd string. He does that twice in a row. Let's back up and hear this. From there, we kind of roll up to the 3rd string, the G string. And this is really cool. He hammers into a bend. And then back here. And then up here to the root note on your ring finger, the G note. Da 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 da. You hear that timing? So we put that all together here for the second main lick. See how I had to roll up to this third string because it's going to be fast at full speed. That's full speed there. Let's back up and do those first two licks. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1. Woo! We're into it now. Here we go. So no pausing, we go right to this lick. So here we're going to hammer our first finger onto our middle finger, third string, and we're hammering into the major third. That's a major note there. Okay, see right there with our major bar chord. So we're still in our box, but we're throwing in that major third. All right, so we hammer and get those same two second to first string right there. Now we hammer and then drop to those same two strings over here to the second string and do this again. But then right back to that note, and we're going to do bends there, full step bends. So that first bend we hold at the top for a split second, and then we go 1, 2, 3, and we kind of walk it back in the box. Second string, third string, slight bend, back up. See how I bend it and I actively pull it down. Full speed. Now the lick doesn't stop there. It's actually a big, huge run-on lick that we're about to do. So we're going to break it down into chunks. But really from there it does this. That's a mouthful. That all runs together without hardly any break. Nowhere to run, no pause. All right, so let's back up and try to get into it. So after this lick, right back here to your first finger, third string, and back to a third string bend, and then these same two trusty notes here. Now we're going to get into these major minor notes down here that he is using all the time. So if we pick up here on this bend again, come out here to the second string, a slight bend, and then drop over here to the first string right there and get that note, that root note. Now we're about to do this kind of crisscross thing Freddie King does all the time. And what it is, we're mixing these minor pentatonic notes with these major pentatonic notes. You see that? Here's our minor notes. And here are our major pentatonic notes here at G. You can memorize that little triangle shape here, just down here on these strings. So all of that thrown together is what's giving us this sound. And what he does here, so on the first string, Now to the major note. And now here's another very unique thing that Freddie King does constantly. I call it rolling the notes or stacking the notes. Rather than jumping and getting that choppy sound, he's coming a little higher on that finger and kind of rolling up to get that note. You can kind of hinge at your wrist to get that sound. So it's a very smooth transition. So there, at that point, he rolls up to catch this second string here at the 5th fret. Come back to the root note. Now we're going to go back out to the minor notes on the 2nd string. So you see it's kind of this crisscross. Let's back that up. From there, go to the 3rd string and do 2 of these. That same 3rd string bend and catching the 2nd string. Go back and do a 3rd bend, but stay there on that 3rd string. Now do another one of these rolls up to the 4th string, the root note. Back to the 3rd string. So backing up. Do another bend on the 3rd string. And then pull it off. Back to the root note. Okay? Finally, do this finger here, slight bend, 3rd string. That's the minor 3rd, flat 3rd. And then same pull off on the 4th to 5th strings. So that last phrase goes. Full speed, he really pops those. Woo! That's the end of that big, long run-on lick. All right, let's try that one more time from the hammer on here. Slight hesitation. And then we're going to come in with this note here. We're kind of at the 5 at that point. Okay, so watch this lick. What is that? We're coming down on these major notes. I'm hammering on that same 3rd string to the middle finger. 2nd string. 1st string, coming down that major kind of triangle shape. And then we're going to bend that major note on the 1st string. It's actually the 2, and I'm going to go. So bend, back, and then bend. And then do one of these. That same kind of roll right there. 1st string, roll up to the 2nd string, and back to the root. From there, jump up to the 3rd string and do this same. That same kind of slight bend and pull off on the 4th and 5th strings we did earlier. Very hip. Check this out. Really pop that pull off. And you hear how those bends, he kind of like lets them scream. full speed. And now we're going to answer those major notes with a pure minor lick. Awesome. First string out here, minor pentatonic and up, down, back. Second string. Third string, we're going to reach out and get that blues note, that sharp, on the third string. And then bend it, pull it off. Really pop those pull-offs. And that phrasing is important. Da 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 da. And he pushes the beat there, getting into that second half. Now finally, we wrap it up with a classic Freddie King turnaround, where we walk it back to the 5. That's what the turnaround is. So this turnaround lick, he uses it a lot, or variations of it. That's that same hammer on, first and middle finger, second string, and then third string. That's very cool. Up, down, bend, back and forth, slight bend, and then just walk these notes back to end on the 5. We're always getting a slight bend there on that flat third, that minor third. That's a great turnaround lick to use on any blues song. And that is the solo, my friends. Let's back it up and try it at a slower speed. 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4, 1. Now just for kicks, let's go ahead and do it full speed. What do you think? If you're ready, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 2, da, da, da. Try that on any blues shuffle in any key, whatever tempo you're comfortable with, if you want to do it slower and then build up to a fast tempo. But I think you're going to enjoy playing that. All right, I'll see you back out there. Okay, I hope you enjoyed that. Now, the first section of the course is dedicated to the history and background of the album, its massive influence on generations of blues and rock musicians, well-known guitarists that were particularly influenced by Freddie King, and more of my own personal story as well. Then we will be diving into each song on the album in the original order of the tracks. For each song, there is a guitar playthrough, as I said, with the original recording, as well as a solo guitar playthrough. Every song is broken down into an individual video lesson for each verse. The lessons are extremely detailed, and I've taken each one very slowly so you can perfect every lick. I also play the entire verse slowly and then at full speed at the end of each video. You can also change the playback speed for the video lessons if you need to watch anything even slower. Now, although some of these songs have been partially taught and available online on YouTube, no one has ever broken down this entire album to the extreme detail that I do in this course. As we go, I talk a lot about the music theory ideas behind the licks and the songs, and where Freddie King is coming from with a lot of his ideas. At the end of the course, we will discuss how to use the song licks and ideas and phrasing in your own improvising and soloing, thereby starting to transform and develop your own unique guitar style. And there will also be some cool examples of my students playing these songs. Now, I know it's pretty brave to say this, but I really feel like I am familiar with these songs more than almost anybody else. I've been playing and teaching them for so long. They're ingrained in me. It's like when you learn how to ride a bike when you're so young. Same with me. I learned how to play these songs so young, 7, 8, 9 years old, that they're just part of me by now. So once again, I would like to invite you to join me in this Freddie King Instrumentals course. I still have just as much passion and excitement about these songs as I did when I first started learning them. And I'm sure you're going to feel that as you get into the course. And I am truly certain that learning these songs will impact your guitar playing as much as they have impacted mine. So without further ado, come along with me. Let's dive in and get started.